A conductor on a northbound G train station in New York City saw a passenger bleeding out from their left hand with a trail of blood behind them. If you saw someone like this, what would you do? The conductor immediately went and called emergency medical services and took the passenger to Elmhurst Hospital Center. The passenger was healed and released. They later told police that they just cut their hand with a bottle. Now, who was the passenger that the conductor helped? Who was the person that cut his hand with a bottle? That person is known as the Craigslist killer, John Katehis. He had just murdered an ABC News reporter, and now he's on the run. George Weber was an ABC News reporter in New York City. He was born on March 23, 1961 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. George began his career at WUX, Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Then he moved on to Weeb, which is a news talk radio station in Allentown. Then George received an offer to be a street reporter and anchor with Kim. After working there for 2.5 years and after Kim's demise, George went to a commercial news talk radio station and worked there as a host of a nighttime talk show. Then in April 2008, George worked as an ABC News reporter. He would do news updates for the ABC radio network. George also had his own website where he would publish stories, investigations, and experiences about his personal life. The last story he published was about an outbreak of bed bugs in his neighborhood. This story was published on the day he died, March 20, 2009. On March 18, 2009, John responded to George's Craigslist advertisement for an erotic encounter that would earn him $60. So they decided to meet on March 20, 2009. George Weber wanted someone to smother him and duct tape his ankles together. So John took the deal to make quick cash. On March 20, 2009, George Weber was found killed inside his Brooklyn apartment. A coworker became concerned that he didn't show up for work on Saturday, so police went to George's apartment on Sunday 12:30 a.m. Police didn't notice anything wrong and left. The same coworker called again at 8:30 a.m. Police returned to the apartment. A neighbor told police that they heard water running in George's apartment all night. Police entered the apartment and discovered George's body with his hand and feet bound. George had been stabbed more than 50 times in the head, chest, neck, and arms. One of the rooms had been ransacked. The water was still running in the bathtub and kitchen sink. Police believe George's killer used the water to clean themselves after the murder. They also noticed no sign of forced entry. That same day at 9:13 p.m., a conductor on a northbound G train saw John Katehis bleeding non-stop from his left hand. John was later met by emergency medical services workers at the station and took him to Elmhurst Hospital Center. He was treated and released, and told police he cut his hand on a bottle. 3 days after the murder, on Tuesday morning, John fled to a friend's house. Detectives tracked him down through George's computer communication and received information from John's family members. John's father helped detectives to arrest John by telling him to meet him at the bus depot. As John approached a vehicle expecting his father, detectives got out of the vehicle and John fled. There were more detectives across the street waiting in an unmarked van. They tackled and arrested John. John confessed to the crime when he got arrested. He also said that he was a Satanist and that he responded to people's advertisements on Craigslist for erotic encounters. He also stated that he stabbed George in self-defense because George was trying to stab him. On March 26, 2009, John pleaded not guilty to charges of second-degree murder and weapon possession. He was held without bail. The Brooklyn judge handed down the maximum sentence to John in 2011, who was 18, for stabbing George Weber. John said, "For the death of George Weber, I am sorry. I regret it." John's first trial ended, but then a second panel found him guilty, rejecting his claim of self-defense. On October 21, 2010, John's trial starts. John claimed that he only poked George in the neck with the knife, and it all happened by accident in self-defense. But Dr. Floriana Perschino, a medical examiner, said George was stabbed at least 40 times in the head, neck, chest, and arms. Dr. Perschino declared the death of George was caused by bleeding to death. While Dr. Perschino's testimony, John was seen smiling at the press. Who does that? Defense attorney Jeffrey Schwartz claimed that the detectives who arrested his client and took his statement had tried to make him comfortable so that he would give them a statement that would essentially turn into a confession. John also stated that he loved his swords and knives. He loved them so much that he named two of them the Claw and Fury. He also said that he never took his knives out when he went to meet George and that he went to George's place straight from school. In an effort to prove that his client had stabbed the victim only once, Schwartz also said that Dr. Perschino had examined stab wounds on George's body without examining possible murder weapons. There was no way to prove which or whose knife had caused the victim's multiple injuries. Without the actual blade, you cannot determine which injury was caused by it, Schwartz said. John claimed Weber offered him cocaine when he met up with him at his Cobble Hill apartment. But according to testimony from a criminologist, there was no evidence of drugs found at the victim's apartment. John said everything was going fine until he bound George's ankles, which is when Weber pulled out a knife from his pocket. I grabbed the knife and we were pulling it back and forth and I cut my hand. He claimed that the substance he consumed made him paranoid. Not only did John hurt himself, but he also cut one of George's jugular vein. Everything flew by so quick, said John. We were both struggling over the knife, we're pulling toward each other, and the knife just goes and jabs him in the neck, smothering. He wanted someone to smother him, John said, while slowly picking at a donut.
Dad was just that he wanted someone to smother him. I was super paranoid. So I don't know, but I went to grab the knife because I didn't want the knife. And then I guess he got paranoid too, and we were both struggling over the knife. So the second I saw him pull out, I just got paranoid and I grabbed it. I went to go grab for it, and then he was trying to yank back. So we were both yanking over the knife, and that's how I wound up cutting my finger.
But this doesn't make any sense. John said that George pulled out a knife. But John also said George was on his stomach and his ankles were bounded together. So how did George manage to do that? The teen, who at times laughed between bites of the donut, said he only remembered stabbing Weber once. Weber was still moving around, mumbling and cursing, and I went into his left pocket and took the $60. That was for the smothering garbage, said Katehis.
Before I left, I went back to him. He was still there. He's still moving around and cursing, mumbling now. But I went into his left pocket. I dig through his pockets, but in his left pocket he had $60. So I don't know, I took the $6. That's originally, I guess, what he was going to pay me to do this stupid smothering garbage.
George was stabbed 50 times in the chest, neck, shoulders, and hands. Prosecutor Anasiga Nicolazzi has said the murder was no accident or result of a struggle and that Weber posed no danger to the teen. John's lawyer had called the newsman a sexual predator. John had previously shown strange behavior when he posted selfies of him holding his knives and swords online on his MySpace. He described himself as always looking for a big thrill and I'm a big risk taker and like to live on the edge. He also wrote, I am an extremist, an anarchist, and a sadomasochist. As long as you show respect for me, I will show respect for you. If you disrespect me, then I will effing break your neck. Even though the crime happened when John was 16, he was charged as an adult with second-degree murder and criminal possession of a weapon. He faces 25 years to life in prison. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.